Hello guys, we are live for Carnival Team GB live Q&A session number 30 myself. Apologies that I did not join last week. I was definitely unable to. But today we're going to be answering questions specifically on fat loss, body fat loss, but not weight loss. So we're talking strictly about body fat loss. To lose weight, as many people have said before, it is very easy to cut your arm off. And that's probably the most effective way to do it and most succinct way of doing it. But it will hurt a lot, so I probably wouldn't recommend it. Anyway, we're going to go round the table as we usually do, just to answer 3 questions that you guys have in the chat. But I'll just quickly mention I did a bodybuilding competition this weekend as a carnivore or strict carnivore athlete, and I won, which was not a surprise at all, given the amount of effort and illness that I had to go through to put myself on stage to get through it. But it did take a lot of work. Do I recommend it to other people? No. Was it insightful? Did I gain a lot of intel, experience, information about how best to do it? A bit about myself and what other people could or couldn't achieve, what is a reasonable time frame and goals for what they want to do in terms of body fat loss? Yes, I learned a lot in that time. And a lot of it is so contradictory towards what I find with other people. And I was an experiment. So it was an experiment to see what could be achieved, what levers I had to pull. Did I have to do cardio? Did I have to reduce fat? Did my protein go down? Did it go up? What did I do here? Did I take supplements? Did I do this, that, the other? So we can go into any of that if you guys do have any questions. But we will be answering as a whole, as a panel, as we are Team GB. All of us will be answering the questions you guys have today. Super chats are prioritised, as always. Feel free to leave any of them if you would like to. All of our websites, our names, our ways to find us are on the screen right now as we speak. So you can easily access any one of us for private consultations, services, YouTube channels, any kind of groups, forums, things like that we have. We all offer something. We will have something to give to you guys, free or paid. It's worth checking out. But yeah, we'll get through the questions now. We seem to have a few start up already. So I just want to thank channel member Tom for joining as channel member. I think it's on my channel. I'm guessing so. I appreciate you joining. It's nice that you're here. And if you've got any questions, please feel free to ask in the chat. Anyway, so we're going to go to the questions now. The first one's from Zinc316. How long does it take to adapt to this way of eating? Do cheat days ruin adaptation? Would it need to be started again? So this is 3 questions requiring 3 super chats. We could probably go around the board a little bit and try and answer this one. If you guys know exactly what you think I'm going to say already, feel free to shout it out now and answer. But how long does it take to adapt this way of eating? How long is a piece of string? What is adaptation? Where are you coming from? Where do you start from? What does your endpoint look like? It's all things to consider. I'd say, largely speaking, it can be anywhere, depending on your start point. It could be anywhere from like a week or 2 to several months, or even up to a year. If you're dealing with some sort of, deadly, awful autoimmune issue, it could be up to a year to sort your body out. There's more than just gut healing. There's mitochondrial function, things like that to look at. If you're an athlete, you've been in a ketogenic diet, maybe 2-3 weeks even. It's certainly possible. It doesn't take too long for some people, but it's an impossible question for us to answer. They're my key considerations if I was working with someone. But does anyone else have any sort of additional thoughts of that in the panel at all? So feel free just to pop up and mention.
Just the word cheat. A cheat. If we were running 100 meters and I wanted to cheat, it would mean I would run it faster than everyone else. So if you have a cheat day, you would expect yourself to be better than the day before. But so it's not a cheat day, it's a sabotage day. And then that answers your own question. But if you're trying to adapt to something, that cheat day will put you back, will sabotage you a little bit. That is quite a broad answer. But of course, if you're, for instance, one that is trying to get rid of a sugar craving, and having a ton of sugar is going to put you back. It's exactly the same as if you were trying to stop smoking, trying to stop drinking. And someone said, well, I'll have a cheat the weekend. It's a jolly boys outing. Go and have some cigarettes. It's going to put you back. So I just want to take it back to basics. I mean, it's never going to be a good thing. But I just want to echo exactly what Jonathan said. It is about where you came from in the first place. It really is. I mean, I did a sort of 3 years low carb, 2 years keto, and then did a 30-day challenge Carnivore. You could say I was prepped for it for 5 years. You really could. And I took to it like a duck to water, 30 days. But I had been pretty strict keto for 2 years before that, and pretty strict low carb, 3 years before that. So my rule of thumb is always 26 weeks plus or minus 6 is a sort of good rule of thumb for anything. But exactly what Jonathan said. I mean, I've seen miraculous changes in 7 weeks. Off all meds, off all diabetic meds, looking fantastic, back in the gym. And I've seen people that you think, well, they're going to really fly at this, and it's taken them a year. I can think of one person who was an endurance athlete, and the sticking point was believing the carb cycling, couldn't get it out of her head that we need carbs, and it took a whole year. And it was only when she started to perform better than she had as a carb athlete did everything fall into place. So I think mindset is underestimated. I think if your mind's in the right place, it's going to speed things up. If you truly trust the process, I know it's corny, that's going to help you.
Solid advice, definitely. Do any of you other guys have any sort of thoughts towards that?
I would just go on.
Yeah, I just on the how long does it take to adapt, I'll have to echo what's been said, that how long is a piece of string, but it completely depends, again, on what your goals are. And also I think that if somebody's quite sedentary, it doesn't take that long to get back to feeling as good as you previously did, and even better while you're being sedentary. If you are an athlete, it can take a little bit longer to get back to your peak performance, but you'll probably go beyond that. Do cheat days ruin adaptation? I'm going to let Ben talk about that, because he's got a great way of explaining cheat days, basically as Stephen did, but they're not cheat days, they're ruining days. So, will ruin days cheat your adaptation? Would it need to be started again? Well, you've already started, and then you have a day that something went slightly wrong. Don't worry about it. It's just a blip in the process. It's not that you need to go right back to the beginning. Don't think of it like that. So you messed up once or twice. We're all human. It doesn't matter. Just, the next day, away you go again, and it's absolutely fine. So it's not a matter of starting again. You'll already have had a good foundation there. So don't beat yourself up. Don't sort of lose the whole thread of things just by thinking, oh my God, I've got to start again. You've not started again. How many of us actually, or how many of anybody who does this actually goes completely and utterly strict and never messes up? Probably nobody. So don't worry about it. Just don't beat yourself up. Just carry on eating good food. If you mess up now and again, so what? Doesn't matter.
Yeah, good shout. We'll move to the next question now. So guys, just in case you're wondering, we are keeping this fat loss specific. The idea is that people can watch this after the fact. If it's something that entices them to listen to it, they've got all the answers they need from 5 different people with different experiences, different age groups, different endeavors, so you can take your answers from who you want. It doesn't matter who. We all provide good information, and that's why we're here. Or I think we try to provide good information. We do our best. But please hit the like button before continuing. Very, very important. We've got a question here from Zbigniew. What side effects on your physical mental health you observed during fat loss, up to insane level you achieved? I think me and Phil could probably answer this one. Generally fine, just extreme fatigue, extreme pain, brain fog. I still have brain fog now, guys. When you're lean, your body doesn't hold on to things as well. I'll be drinking, nothing will go in, nothing sticks, as in I can have salty water. It doesn't really hydrate me. So I did notice I was actually having about 4 sachets worth, so about 20 grams worth of Richard Smith's Keto Pro electrolytes before my competition, at least the last 2 weeks or so. And that is what I needed at that time, just to feel hydrated. And I'm not someone that is I find them useful transition. I'm not someone that's big on electrolyte supplements and powders, especially in terms of like taking them daily as like a must, but I really did need them. They're just here, so I've been keeping them on hand nearby. That's the main thing. I mean, the fatigue side of it is the main thing. The pain does creep up. When you're very lean, you're lying on your side at night, you've got no fat between your knees, no fat on your backside, nowhere. I can feel every single tendon and piece of gristle in my backside, my actual glute muscles. If you touch them, it feels like there's like piano wires all across them, and it is very uncomfortable. So I am sat on quite a few pillows and cushions and grounding mats and stuff just to mitigate any additional inflammation. It's not a comfortable position to be in. Would not recommend. You have to be a bit nuts to do it. But I know what it takes and how to get there. So it is possible. I'm on a carnivore diet, and I did fat load. I did keep it clean. I was a very clean carnivore, so you guys are probably proud of me. But yeah, I achieved my best look yet on a bodybuilding stage. And anyone that's seen the pictures will see the outcome was very dramatic, and the win was a very, very, very solid win. Confirmed by first place votes, centre stage the entire time. It was a lights out game over situation, and I'm proud to represent the carnivore community and prove to people that it can be done. If I can do it, a diseased person with autistic spectrum disorder, spine disease, hip issues, chronic fatigue, it tells you it can be done. You don't need carbohydrates to fuel up or do anything for any athletic endeavour. And I say that very deliberately because being lean for a long period of time and getting leaner is hard work, guys. It's very different to just saying, I'm going to train for a month to do a marathon. No, this is significantly harder. Most people could not do this. Your mental health will deteriorate if you're not in the right frame of mind. So you don't jump into this sort of thing, guys. I wouldn't recommend doing it as an experiment. If you do it with someone, a coach, anyone around here that's understanding of the human body to direct you the best way that they can and do it safely and sensibly. But yeah, I mean, do you guys have any sort of follow-ups to that, or any questions or thoughts, like fleeting thoughts about it?
Not really.
Yeah, I do. The side effects on physical and mental health you've observed during fat loss. Well, excuse me. I think that if you lose fat too fast, you can release a whole load of toxins, plant toxins, oxalates. You can release a load of deuterium. All of this can go around the body, and you can feel absolutely crap. And so I think, just going back to your ancestral diet, not pushing it, not going really low fat, any of that sort of thing. Just go back to eating what you're supposed to eat and let the body deal with it. It will hold on to fat sometimes if it feels that it has stored too many toxins to unload on your system at any particular time. Mental health, I didn't actually, when I was losing a load of fat, when I lost about 90 pounds, I noticed a load of negative things physically, but positive things mentally. So I think it was just that I was actually fueling my body with some decent food rather than, the crap plant foods I was eating before. So the mental health felt a lot better. But physical health, yeah, a lot of issues, a lot of things like rashes, kidney stones, all of that kind of thing. Watch out how fast you lose fat. You should lose it a nice sort of steady pace over the weeks and let your body do what it wants. Don't force it, because you could get into trouble. We've stored up a load of toxins for years or even decades. Release them too fast, they can be more of a problem on the way out than on the way in. That's what I'd say.
Nice one. Yeah, I'd agree with that one. Luckily, 4.5 years into my carnivore journey, I've not really stored many toxins, I don't think, so I didn't have any real issues. But, I wouldn't go from standard Western diet to carnivore bodybuilding pre-contest phase. It'd be a daft idea, guys. You'd deplete so much toxins from your body, like Phil said, so that's a really good point. Do any of you guys have any takes on this, or was it the last question, whatever it was? I can't remember what it was.
Nothing to add.
No. Okay. Got a question from Andy. So recently I read an article by Jonas Vonderplanitz. He suggested we adjust body fat percentages throughout each year for the purpose of eliminating stored toxins. This is quite similar to what Jack Cruz says, but have you guys got any insights towards this at all?
Well, yeah, if that's okay. Sorry to jump in there, but his basic premise is that if you've got fat compared to somebody that hasn't got fat, you have a protective sink over your body for toxins. And Phil just sort of briefly touched on the fact when you start losing body fat, you can release toxins. I don't think there's any argument that toxins can be stored in fat. It can be used that way. My disagreement with him is that he flat out says fatter people are healthier. And I don't think that's my personal experience. Now, it could be a few other things, like you tend to be lean if you're interested in your diet. So it could be that healthy user bias. And it's really difficult to say if you could take identical twins, one that was lean and one that was fatter, and looked at them for 20 years, would the fatter one have less diseases? And, you wouldn't be able to do that study. So to me, the common sense doesn't really ring true in sort of like objective reality. But I can also see the premise that fat is protective, which it is. I mean, that's part of what it does. It keeps you warm. It stops injury to the organs and that sort of thing. There is that definite role in fat. And when you look at the terrible metric of BMI, one thing that is interesting in that is people between 25 and 30 BMI do seem to have less diseases of certain types compared to people in the sort of 20-25 range, which is allegedly the sweet spot. So I think there's something to it, but I don't think it's as easy as saying have a bit of fat and you're only going to be healthier. I think there's a lot more, but he's a fascinating person, and he was the one that invented the term fat phobic. We don't want to be fat phobic, and I think that's one of you got two guys who started the big fat challenge here, so it's a good thing in that he got people talking about fat, eating fat and storing fat. It's not all negative.
It's just not even that easy to do though as well. If you're eating properly, if you're eating the way you should, nothing in nature is just fat and goes, oh yeah, but it's better, more advantageous for us to be fat walking around. It doesn't make a lot of sense. And I think to make a conscious attempt or effort to kind of gain fat, flush toxins, it's like none of that's necessary. Just don't even go there. It doesn't make any sense. No animal is going around thinking, oh well, I'm gaining my fat now and then I'm going to do a detox. And no, they just live their lifestyle outside, eating their species appropriate food for that specific species, and that is exactly what we should be doing. And then when you're doing that, you'll find optimal body composition. You could, if you wanted to, eat locally, seasonally and ripe. If you do believe in that for whatever reason, you can then perhaps put on a little bit of weight during the summer, end of summer, winter comes, whatever. But to me, I think that when you're in a better state with your health, your body is just kind of ticking over the way it should. Your body detoxes naturally. You don't have to intervene on your body's mechanisms. They take care of themselves all the time. You give yourself proper nourishment and you live properly. You get up and get out in the light, move and all that kind of stuff. And so I think that in a way it's kind of overcomplicating things. Eat food, live healthy, and everything just kind of takes care of itself.
Yeah, I mean, and ancestrally, we would have gained fat during the summer when there was more food available, and including nuts and seeds and soft fruits and stuff like that as well. And those things also come with plant toxins and deuterium and sugar and everything else. So we would have stored that fat and then we would have released that gradually and slowly throughout the winter. So gaining the fat would have helped as a survival strategy to survive the winter in an ice age. But the bottom line is, well, there's two main things. One is most people are in that accelerated fat storage mode 365 days of the year, and that ain't healthy. Just keep putting on fat on top of more fat is not going to help you. But also because we've hacked the solar cycle. Right? You don't experience winter anymore. We really don't experience it. We don't experience the shortage of food. We don't experience the cold really, because we've all got heating and big fluffy coats. So yes, you just don't. We don't need to build up that fat in the summer in the same way that we did. So the thing is that we'll probably store a little bit of fat during the day when we eat, and we'll burn a little bit of fat during the night when we're fasted. So yeah, I agree with the guys. I don't think there's any particular need these days to have any solar cycle, as in annual pattern to it.
I think that there's probably some benefit to being a bit fatter in the months of the year where you have less sunlight exposure. Personally, I think you'll absorb more vitamin D from the sun, which obviously we tend to lose a lot of when it isn't sunny. So I think that has like an ongoing effect in the background. But saying that, I don't think it's realistic, or to my belief at least, that we should absolutely have, 20 pounds more fat on our body in the winter. Maybe 5-10 pounds a bit just to feel comfortable. But I really don't think it's that much more, guys. Now I've actually got a question for the panel, which I'll also answer myself. It's just a simple numbers that I'm going to ask for. But in your experience, it can be a guess if you want to just say it's a guess. But what do you think is, say, the optimal body fat range for a man, maybe a woman as well, if you can come up with the numbers, in terms of like being healthy? So a healthy man walking around, fit, and this could be a broad range. And for me, what I'll say is, what I've seen is it's somewhere between about maybe 10, 12 and 20% body fat for a male. Just because I've seen people that are healthy on either end of that range, and it's been, pretty much my experience. But what do you guys think? Do you think the range is bigger than that? Is it smaller than that for males, for example? For females, I'd say it's about 6-7% higher, but the same ballpark range, something like that.
Normal for a man these days is 20, and normal for a woman, I think, is 32 or 34% body fat, which are quite. I mean, obviously that's the top end of what you're saying, Jonathan, and then fatter for a woman. But then you've always have to take normal with a pinch of salt. Is this normal for people who are generally healthy today? Well, the healthier end of a sick society. So it's certainly not optimal. But yeah, I'll be interested what the other guys think.
Well, I think it depends what that body fat percentage is made up of. Because is that like the high end of the fat people, on Carnivore, or the low end of the fat of the skinny people on pizzas and pasta and seed oils? So, some people don't get quite that fat, and they don't get morbidly obese, but they're still very sick. I was one of those. And then I felt a lot worse at a very, very low body fat percentage, because I released all the toxins at once and lost 90 pounds very quickly. So I'd say you're about in the right percentage, body fat percentage, both of you there, as long as we're eating our ancestral diet, I'd say. Otherwise, it can be skewed.
Yeah, I agree. I was going to say 12, 22, like my range. But I would say, yeah, if you look at sort of natural tribes, I don't think you really ever come across any above 20%. I think that they're doing very, very well if they're at 20%. And they could go as little as 9-10%, but that's kind of like, very low end. I would say very healthy, around about 15%. I seem to do really well. I've gone as well, feeling optimal. I've gone as low as around about 12%. And I've been probably close to 20, but I seem to do great around 15. It's just a guess. I've never really measured it properly, but I do believe I actually estimate my body fat percentage realistically. Unlike a lot of people, they tend to, say it's a lot lower than it actually is. I think I've probably been as low as about 7 or 8%. You could see veins in my abs and in my back. I wasn't sleeping very well. I was very stressed. I just felt totally different. But yeah, around 15%, I would say. But again, if you're just eating the right foods, you're listening to your body's satiety signals that are all functioning correctly because you're living properly, then it's going to be slightly arbitrary, but you're probably going to wind up around that sort of percentage.
Yeah, I'll just echo what everyone else said, which isn't a guess. I mean, it's just experience, and obviously there's going to be people out there where they're too hung up on it. That's one proviso I would say. If your body composition, if you're particularly heavy below your torso and you're very skinny up top, then you've got to look at your body composition in a different way. Forget the body percentage and just try and look in the mirror and see what's going wrong. You could be under muscled, for instance, in the upper body, or over muscled lower down. There's so many other little bits and pieces. So don't just, this is a very broad answer. Don't just look at the scale and think, oh, 12% body fat, that's fantastic. Do look in the mirror and think, well, hang on a minute. I haven't done leg day for the last 6 months. I look like an idiot. So it's just common sense. Make sure your body composition, overall body composition, is pleasing to you and you feel optimal. And I think, I know many people think it's the same sort of different cheek of the same ass, but your muscle percentage and your fat percentage don't necessarily go hand in hand. So you could be very lean but very unhealthy because you're just under muscled.
Absolutely, yeah. The reason why I asked this question, guys, it seems a bit like I never really probe people at these answers and tried to get this extra information up, but I had a lot of consults with people recently, actually a lot of young men, and they're like, oh, I'm not that lean, I'm kind of skinny fat, and I see them, and they've got visible abs. They've got like an outline of, the abs, the definition. I'm like, you're not someone that needs to be hyper-focused on staying lean, and, you just stay as you are. You're absolutely great as you are, and it's... I have a duty of care as like a bodybuilder that's just in shape sort of thing, to sort of say to people, no, don't do what I'm doing. Don't do what I'm doing. I'm trying to be transparent here. It's hard work. Your body does not feel great at this body fat level. And Phil and Lee can probably attest to the same thing, but that's just what I want to get across. But yeah, if you guys are happy, we'll move on to the next question. So Paul, who is once a week man, says, why does dairy sometimes impede weight loss? What's the mechanism? Good question.
There's a few. Yeah.
There's a few. Yeah. Steve, you have a go.
Yeah. Well, I'll talk about one that many people don't talk about, and that's odd chain fatty acids in dairy products. So when you get even chain fatty acids, you always get 2 carbon fragments going off and doing stuff. And with an odd chain, you always end up with 3 carbon fragments, and that will go to the liver, and that will take part in gluconeogenesis because the body is really smart. It's a fantastic lysis, basically. Anything that's got lysis on the end means it's been sheaved off, it's been cut. So you get this 3 carbon fragment, off it goes. It will make some blood glucose. So that's one of the mechanisms. And obviously the other thing is casomorphins, which is a posh way of saying there's something in it that people like. So someone will say, I'm only going to have 90 grams of yogurt per day. And then the next day it will be 190 grams of yogurt per day. And a milkshake or something, or, a protein shake. So it is a little bit addictive. So I thought I'd just get in with a little bit of a sort of starter, and then everyone else can get in with their bits. But my own personal experience, when I did priming 2 years ago, which I did a live thing with Raymond, to get fat, yogurt was one of the 3 things I added to my diet to put weight on, because I knew that yogurt would do it. So for me, that's why I'm really interested in it, because whatever type of yogurt, no sugar, high fat, really good quality, it's a killer for me. I will put body weight on straight away, body fat on straight away.
Yeah, we'll do a round table on this one because I think it's such a good topic to go into, and it's something people do frequently ask. There's at least 4 other mechanisms I can think of. Phil, I'll ask you, because you've got some useful insights on dairy intake. I mean, what happens to you if you have too much, or
Well, it's really simple for me. If I eat dairy, I don't have abs. If I don't eat dairy, I have abs. It's just that simple. There are other issues that happen with me as well, like sinus stuff and, not major joint issues, but a little bit of niggling, that kind of thing. It's inflammatory. I'm going to let Ben do his speech about small animals and large animals, but that's what it's meant to be. It's also a combination of carbs and fats, which ends up hyperpalatable. We're not supposed to eat it, when we're adults. And we've seen a lot of people while Ben and I have been doing the Big Fat Challenge, and women particularly, when they hit a fat loss stall, and then it's like, just give up the dairy. But I don't eat much. And like, no, just try it. Just give it up. Wow, suddenly the weight comes off. So there are other issues, but I'm going to hand over to Ben about the small animals and large animals and stuff, because I think it's such a good point that he makes very well.
Yeah, well, like Phil says, milk has one purpose. It's designed to deliver as much nutrition, including fat and including sugars as well, to some degree, to a young mammal as rapidly as possible, to help that young mammal to get strong enough to survive, basically, and also growth factors as well, which I know isn't part of the question. But the other thing is that milk is one of the few natural foods that contains both carbohydrates and fats in the same package. Nuts also do it, which is why you can sit there and eat a bucket full of salted macadamias until they're literally coming out of your ears, or peanuts or whatever, which aren't nuts, they're legumes. But yeah, there's very few things in nature that combine carbs and fats. I think avocados is another one. But they're even more toxic than the nuts. But yeah, there's something else as well. I actually found, as part of some research, I found a pamphlet that was published in 1930. So sorry, just to back up, the point of the combination of carbs and fats in one package, what that does is it bypasses natural satiation. So you can consume as much as possible. Now, that is favorable to the plant that makes the nut, because it wants the squirrels or whatever to come and just gorge on these nuts, or whatever bird or whatever it is, to eat as many as possible, because it's in the plant's interest to do that. It's also in the interest of the mammal mother to get the infant to consume as much as possible. We are not supposed to have milk after we're weaned. That's the simple truth of it from a biological standpoint. Now, so I found this article from the Agricultural Experiment Station Bulletin in 1930, right? And it's from some US state. And they showed that it's fascinating, because they even had tables on it as well, how to fatten pigs for market as quickly as possible, right? And they knew, we've known for a long time, that giving pigs grains made them fat and then ready for market sooner. But what they found and reported on in this, skimmed milk, right? They said this is not only the very best supplement for growing pigs, but is of almost equal value for fattening purposes, right? Now you think, well, skimmed milk, it's got no fat left in it, right? What's it got? A bit of kind of lactose, galactose, or whatever in it. But what they said was, milk renders the ration more palatable, inducing greater consumption and consequently greater daily gains. So that's the thing. And this is the thing that blows my mind. So what are they doing to fatten the pigs? What are they giving the pigs to fatten them as quickly as possible? Breakfast cereal, grains with skim milk added. And then what are parents told to give their kids as the healthiest start in the morning? The same blooming thing. It's insanity.
Yeah, not too much to add, honestly. You kind of covered it with the growth hormone, the carbohydrate factor, lactose, glucose, which is all just metabolized in the end as glucose. The casomorphines, which make it addictive. That is like a morphine type agent. And yeah, it's true. I actually, before my surgery, I went up to the butcher's just up the top of the road here, and my butcher was like, "Oh, I've got a bit of pork that you might be interested in." And he showed me this pork, and it was like the whitest fat you've ever seen. Like, it was like paper, very, very fatty. And he's like, "Yeah, these pigs have eaten nothing. But drunk milk. That's all they had. They were just so fatty." So and it's again true what you're saying about the fats and the carbs at the same time. That's why donuts are so moreish. That's why ice cream is so moreish. So, I mean, I understand that a lot of people can moderate and they do quite well, but if you can't, it is a nightmare, because it does taste amazing, especially if you've gone like on a strict carnivore diet and then you try milk. It's like the sweetest thing on the planet. I think it's probably quite hard if you're eating just red meat and eggs and things like that to activate the Randall cycle. I think you'd probably have to be drinking like 1.5 litres, because, so, I mean, you do quite well to drink 1.5 litres. a day. But yeah, that's I haven't really got much else to add, really. Back to you, Jonathan.
Yeah, I've just got on the screen now, so I'm not good at multitasking these things, but just got on the screen the news article, the bulletin that Ben was mentioning just now. So it's Station Bulletin 269, November 1930, fattening pigs for market. So that's where you guys can find it. It's available online. So
Yummy.
check that one out. Yummy. I don't eat pigs, but looks like a happy pig. There we go. Excellent. Yeah, so there we go. I guess I'll give my take on dairy. So you guys obviously outlined all the key mechanisms. I'd say the main thing that impacts my fat loss when it comes to dairy intake is the amount of fat that I actually take in. So, for example, butter, ghee, very high in fat, most likely to cause fat gain for me. I've done this experiment a lot of times. If I eat too much fat, if I eat, for example, 100 grams extra per day or 100 grams of carbohydrates per day from dairy, either way, it works out the fat does make me fatter than the dairy, guys. Now, why does that happen? Well, the mass balance model is one possible instance. Obviously, it makes a bit more sense in terms of the food metric equation when it comes to in versus out, obviously against the calorie in, calorie out methodology, which is PANTS. What we'll say is as well, it doesn't mean that I can eat loads of carbohydrates from dairy and not get fat. Again, I did this experiment myself over the past 3 to 4 months, and I've varied my carbohydrate intake from dairy sources from around 50 grams per day down to as low as 20 grams per day. When I made that change overnight at one point, it did make a difference. It did make a difference to my fat loss results. Now, am I heavy enough people? Do I have more muscle mass than most people? Yeah, generally speaking. So my ceiling, my roof or capacity to oxidize fat, make better use of carbohydrates, my insulin sensitivity, my glucose sensitivity, I guess you could say, is actually much better than most people. So that comes into it as well. Now, if someone else made that change, someone who's morbidly obese, perhaps they wouldn't get that benefit. They wouldn't experience that reduction of body fat when they would experience that reduction of body fat when they reduce their carbohydrate intake. You guys have done a really good job here. You've obviously tackled the point of the lactose content, the dairy, the insulinogenic effect. The carbohydrate insulin model, in my opinion, impacts fat loss by up to, but no more, in my experience, strictly speaking, by 20%. So if you equated calories, say you added in, a few more carbs in, say you added in 100 grams of carbs per day versus 0 grams of carbs, assuming calories in, calories out made sense and the net total intake of the day was the same, it'd impact fat loss by about 20%. And that's the most obese person. So I don't think the reason why people are fat is dairy solely. Stephen made a really good point as well about the short chain fatty acids, the different composure of those, how they affect the gut microbiome. And he made a good point in the chat as well about antibiotics. Yes, antibiotic use, medication use of various different kinds will certainly increase fat disposition on the body. So that's what I found, and a lot of other people as well. They tend to not be as lean, and it tends to last a bit of time. Outside of that, I will say the hyperpalatability aspect of it. Although the casomorphine impact in regards to food intake is spoken about a lot because it's something that does exist. It's not a myth. It's not fallacy. There are no studies which underpin the claim that casomorphins make us fat, or in the amount that they're in dairy is truly addictive. But we do have anecdotal evidence from people saying, I can eat a pound of cheese a day. That does happen. So obviously, if we can eat a pound of cheese per day, it probably is hyperpalatable. But casomorphins and other things like that do exist in other foods outside of the animal kingdom as well. So it's the better of two evils. I'd rather see someone drink a pint of milk than a pint of Skittles milkshake from the vending machine at the local sports centre. But that's my kind of take on the fat loss element when it comes to dairy intake. It won't stop fat loss, guys, but it can certainly make a huge difference to some people. So it's one of the first levers to pull out, but probably not the first. The first thing for me, with most people, is getting on board with tracking what you're eating, making sure you know what you're eating each day, day in, day out, making necessary changes from the interventions that you seek. Measure body fat, find a way to look yourself in the mirror and see what is not working. So the fat intake is going to be the key thing there. Then look at the dairy, carbohydrate, insulin side of it. So that's what I would personally do as a composition coach. But more than one way to skin a cat, and there's a lot of nuance to it, a lot of caveats. So if you guys wanted to hear more about Phil, Ben, Lee or Stephen's experience, book in a consultation with them, book in a chat with them, try to organise something where you can find out more about what their experience has been, because we're not all bodybuilders, we're not all dealing with autoimmunity, we're not all dealing with, I don't know, heart problems or different autoimmune flare-ups and digestive issues. So, take your answers and see what makes sense for you, because there's more than one way to skin a cat. But yeah, I think we get to the next question now. I think we've covered that one quite well. So a question from Gaza, which is, does fasting have any utility for fat loss in carnivore, or is it irrelevant if food mass is equated as we keep insulin low anyway? Now, this question, in a roundabout way, was answered 1 month ago, roughly, maybe 2 months ago. And what he was asking me, I think it might be on my channel, was about the idea of staggering or alternating food intakes on maybe train days versus not, having lower food, higher food days, depending on what you're doing at that point in time. I'd say it generally comes down to mass balance model. What you're eating over a 24-hour period, 7 days a week, is what's going to largely impact your fat loss results. Now, if you have 1 day per week and you binge eat a load of Skittles, a load of Haribo, chocolate bars, probably not going to help you out. Probably get upset your gut microbiome, as Coach Stephen rightly points out quite often. So that can certainly impact your sleep, your recovery, your ability to train, and all things that matter. So that's probably how I'd look at it. Better to keep your food intake about the same. I'd rather see someone have an apple per day every day than have 1 apple or 1,000 apples once every 3 weeks and feel like crap for it. It seems like a more logical approach, but that's just my take. But what do you guys think when it comes to this sort of question, when we're talking about food mass and insulin levels in the body?
Well, yeah, if you keep your insulin low, you're going to burn fat. I mean, or conversely, if your insulin is high, you can't burn fat, because that's a role, one of the roles. I fell into the trap that everyone else falls into. One of the many, many roles of insulin is to promote fat storage. So if you've got high levels of insulin, you won't burn fat. I mean, that's just a physiological fact. And we know that definitely is the case. 1922, when they discovered insulin, and all these diabetic people that were eating 10,000 calories of food and still wasting away suddenly didn't waste away, and in fact started to plump out pretty quickly. And so we know insulin is definitely involved in fat storage. We know that, and inappropriate levels is normally promoted by overconsumption of carbohydrates. I'm going to go very broad with Gaz's question, and then other people can jump in. But if I get a customer, client, friend, whatever, family says, I cannot lose weight, I say, then don't eat. I guarantee you will lose weight. Right. So once we get into that, then we get into why you're not losing weight. So I think that's the thing. You can definitely lose weight by not eating. That's a fact. That's obvious common sense. So fasting is not eating. And then you get around this, well, why does that happen? Well, the calorie people say, well, you're calorie restricting. I could say, well, actually, you're not raising insulin either. So we don't want to get into that. We want to get into the fact that there are people losing body fat, eating substantial amounts of food that aren't raising their insulin. That we see on a daily basis. So I'm glad everyone's nodding there. So we then get into food mass, and this is one thing that I'm really glad Jonathan talks about it, and I think the other guys do as well. We look at the mainstream and how they talk about a gram of food having a certain amount of calories. And it's the complete wrong way to look at it. Because if you look at fat as a mass, the weight of fat is over half the weight of the same calorific amount of carbohydrates. So 1 gram of fat gives you 9 calories. You have to have 2.2 grams of carbohydrate to get the same calories. It's quite simple. And I did an equation where I looked at 2,500 calories, because I don't believe in calories, but other people seem to. And I just did the simple equation. How much food would you eat by weight if you had it was all to make the sums easy. If you had 500 grams of protein a week, I think it wasn't a day, sorry, 500 calories of protein a day and you had 2,000 calories of carbs, or if you had 500 calories of protein and 2,000 calories of fat, what would the food actually weigh? And over a year, that's over 100 extra kilograms of food with the carbohydrate people eating exactly the same amount of calories. Well, your body's got to process an extra 100 kilograms, which is for most people a whole extra person. So mass is really important. And I can't believe that when you point that out, people say, well, why does that matter? You know, the calories in, calories out, people are like, that doesn't matter. The amount of, of course it does. If, you know, if I've got a food plate in front of me and the food weighs a kilogram and I eat it, it's basic science. I'm going to weigh a kilogram more until I excrete some stuff. All right. But temporarily, I weigh a kilogram more. But if I then eat 2 kilograms of food per day, I'm going to weigh 2 kilograms more. So there's a lot more for the body to do. So I just feel that, yes, fasting has a utility. Let's answer the actual question. Fasting has a utility in fat loss in carnivore. Yeah, definitely. People can do it. But in the end, it is what you eat over 24 hours, 7 days a week, 365 that makes the difference, really, because we all know people that have lost a ton of weight by under eating. At least once a month, I have a new client come on board and they're like, oh, I lost a ton of weight. And I was actually carnivore, but I didn't eat much, but it worked. And I said, no, it isn't. It didn't work. You're here. So you've got to get to a point where you have a good relationship with food. And Lee summed it up earlier. You just got to eat the right food, and then your body's got to be comfortable with that, and you're going to get to function and be at the weight you should be. It's common sense. If you eat the proper human diet, you will eventually adapt and eat the right way. We've just got to unlearn all the crap we've been told, you know, like breakfast is the most important meal of the day. You've got to eat grains, you've got to eat fiber, all that. Just put that to one side and just eat what we should eat appropriately. And over the year, you will get the body composition that you deserve.
Yeah, I don't think fasting should be a primary tool in the weight loss or fat loss arsenal. I think it's more in the realm of, you know, getting into autophagy, apoptosis, getting rid of deuterium, maybe dry fasting to, you know, shut down autoimmune conditions, that kind of thing. I don't know. And as Stephen said, you know, if you eat a couple of kilos of food, you're going to weigh a couple of kilos more. But I kind of challenge that in, you know, for Dr. Greger anyway, because, you know, he has his daily dozen bowel movements. So, you know, he's going to have 4 or 5 dumps in between meals anyway. But, you know, if you're eating a species specific human diet, you're going to weigh a bit more. But I don't see fasting as a primary fat loss tool particularly. And also it can actually work against some women, but well, some people, but particularly women, because it kind of puts them into starvation mode and gets them to hold on to body fat. And we've seen people on the challenge go, you know, 1 meal a day or start fasting, and I'm not losing any fat, I'm not losing anything on the scales. But then when they actually eat when they're hungry, however many times a day that is, as long as it's, you know, high fat carnivore or whatever, then sometimes it can kick the hormones back in again or stop them not being kicked in again, and they can lose weight on the scales, which is generally fat and not muscle or bone density, as long as it's carnivore. So I think fasting has a lot of benefits, but not as a primary fat loss goal, I wouldn't have said.
Yeah, I haven't really got too much to add. I would just agree actually with Phil that I wouldn't look at it like a weight loss or fat loss hack, you know. I think nutritional ketosis, if you're otherwise healthy, is the better way to go and get your macros right, or just eat, you know, listen to your body's signals until you get to where you want to be. And that can take time depending on the position where you're coming from. Yeah, not really much to add. You've kind of covered it really, but I would just, you know, I'm more inclined to do like a dry fast for 1 day, or look at it as like a reset, or to get yourself out of trouble and healing, that kind of thing. Like, again, as Phil was saying, you know, many people have discovered that eating more fat allows them to lose more fat, and it's all down to hormones and the position that they're coming from. Everybody's different. So I personally wouldn't fast. Even if I was large and I'm looking to lose fat, I probably wouldn't fast. Maybe do like a day dry fast reset, and then eat proper food and get healthy, and your body will kind of find its balance with everything.
Yeah, I agree. Particularly if you're quite new to it, I think the emphasis should be on putting all the nutrition into your body that it needs. Don't even think about fasting. And particularly until you are over all cravings, then fasting is just going to put you in harm's way. You're going to want to run out and buy a pizza and a tub of Ben and Jerry's. Phil, I'm also conscious that Zofia doesn't use fasting ever as part of their protocol in Paleo Medicina. What can you tell the boys and girls what the reason was for that?
Well, she reckons that she sees really wacky blood results on it when people are fasting. And the thing is, she recommends such an incredibly effective diet, the high fat sort of ruminant animal meat plus organs for healing, that it's so effective, you probably wouldn't need the fasting. You wouldn't need to detox anything in between. And she sees weird blood results. So I would she's a hero of mine, and I think she's way ahead in the healing diet space. But I kind of challenge her on that, because if there's weird blood results when you're fasting, then maybe that's just what the body needs to do, because, she's very hot on, okay, send me the blood results and I'll interpret them because they're a bit wacky and the GP will think they're crazy when you're on carnivore. So I think it's maybe a step beyond that, because ancestrally we'd always have fasted. We didn't get a kill every day. We didn't. So our bodies are very much adapted to that kind of fasting. Not that it's particularly necessary if you're eating a great diet, but if you do fast for a while, who's to say? Where, as the vegans would say, where are the studies? Where are the studies? I mean, what is a healthy level of various blood results when somebody's 4 days into a dry fast? Nobody really knows. And so I'd say that Zofia is correct, that you probably don't need it, but if you want to use it, it can be a really good tool. There we go.
Absolutely. I think you guys got a lot of value out of those answers. Honestly, I couldn't agree more with everything that was said there. What I will say is this is a shameless plug, and I don't plug much things if I can help it, but both me and Stephen and Phil and Ben and Lee can all talk about fat loss. I know for a fact myself, Stephen and I both offer carnivore bodybuilding, fat loss, body composition ebooks. Do check those out. If they're anything like what Stephen says, it's good quality information. So check those both of those out. Also join the groups that the other guys offer, and check out their channels as well for any kind of information they have. Because we all maintain good shape. None of us in this panel are over fat or severely underweight. And despite all of our health issues that we have, various different things, digestion, autoimmunity, we all maintain a healthy weight. None of us appear as unhealthy people. We work with lots of people, guys. We've heard everything under the sun. Big people, small people, medium people. So check out our services there for sure. I couldn't highlight that enough. And both Steve and I have talked to death about the calories in, calories out argument. I've even got a playlist called Seco or something like that, and I think Stephen probably has something similar as well. But if you want to stop spinning your wheels, go through those playlists that we have on our channel. You'll end up being so much further ahead in your body composition journey. It would be unreal. You don't even have to buy our stuff, although I'd hope that you did. Check out those channels, check out those playlists. They're very informative and valuable. We go to the next question now. This is probably the last question, guys. So apologies in advance if we have not yet got to a question. We have had loads through. It's a very popular topic tonight. But this one does seem to be quite relevant at the moment. It's been popularised by, I want to say, Steak and Butter Gang and Lisa Wiedemann, the carnivore doctor, I think. And it's about sardine fasts. The idea is you eat a food that's nutrient dense, that optimizes hormones, thyroid function, thyroid output. It's monotonous eating. It's one food eating. The idea is it's hard to overeat because you're only eating one thing. The protein fat ratios on them are roughly 2-to-1 protein to fat in terms of grams, so no wonder why you get lean. But the problem is, for the people that talk about this, they say, oh, and they get their clients to come up on the screen, oh, I've lost 4 pounds in the last 2 days. I'm doing really well. I've lost loads of fat. I'm getting shredded. You cannot lose that much body fat, guys, in that period of time. It's water. Look for sustainability, and you will not be able to sustain a 100-pound weight loss eating only fucking tins of sardines. Forget about it. Sorry to swear, but that's the truth, guys. If you want to get on board with a proper eating plan, you're eating a carnivorous diet, mixed animal foods, plus or minus, depending what you can or cannot tolerate, and you're affecting your food mass, your food intake from there. These things can be useful if you need something like a challenge, but the people I see, guys, online doing challenges are not getting long-term results. They're flip-flopping day in, day out, and I consult with most of these people, so I know what it's like. I get on a sensible eating plan, gradually reduce or increase depending where the body's at the time. And I'm pretty sure the other guys would do exactly the same. But what are your guys' opinions on sardine fasts for, increasing ketosis? And we'll just go around the board as we are now.
Could I jump in? Like after my last vegan escapade around, I don't know, 2011, and I remember the first thing I ever did was come off it and just ate sardines for a week. All of my brain fog went, everything came back in. I didn't really need to lose any fat at the time because I was emaciated. That came with, a bit more time on ketosis and very, 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 very huge adherence to cold thermogenesis every single day. If we don't get round to Tellboy's question here, yes, trampets, move the lymph around, but you want to get rid of loose skin, get in cold baths and stuff. It's very effective. But yeah, sardine fast, it's not enough fat really to sustain you, so you're kind of bordering on rabbit starvation if you do it for long enough. And they're revolting. Come on, guys. I mean, they're all right for a while, and they're nice to sort of smash up and put on the top of a burger now and again. But, come on, sardines every single day, you're going to end up in a bit of a fast, aren't you? And you're going to end up losing all kinds of weight because you're not eating enough, probably. Who can eat enough sardines on their own, really? You need a couple of ribeyes in between. Come on, guys. So I don't know. There we go. Great food, great omega-3s, lovely stuff, but not a sole diet, no.
Yeah, I'm certainly not interested in doing a sardine fast myself. I have sardines every now and again, I'll get fresh wild, cook them up and eat the bones and stuff, but it's not something I crave. It's not something that I really enjoy eating. So yeah, and if I'm going to have some sardines, you bet there's some red meat on my plate as well. So.
Well, I quite like sardines, and they will appear on my meal plans if people like sardines. But I like people to eat sort of a full range of foods because it's just more enjoyable. I mean, if you're loving it, and I don't know, it switches. I would always like to play devil's advocate. If the needle's not moving on the scale and you need in your head to see something happen, maybe it's got a place. I know what you said, Jonathan. I agree. It could be water weight, but I don't know if it shifts 4 pounds in 2 days and then you go back to eating and your net result is you're 2 pounds down. It might be just the thing that keeps someone on the path. I don't know. So I think the mental thing of just seeing the needle drop just might be enough. When people get to 90.9 kilograms and they just want to see it 89.9, they just want to see it. So maybe it has a place more in the mental, I'm on the right track sort of way. But I don't think it's something, I don't think I've ever said to anyone I've coached, you should do a sardine fast. It's very good. It's clickbait, no pun intended. It's interesting, people do lose weight. I like the people you mentioned. So I think it's got a place, but it's certainly a better way to lose weight is to eat and be comfortable with the food you're eating and eating enough. So your body just adapts and gets to the right body composition. I don't think one type of food would actually do that for you. And I think you get very bored of it very quickly, personally.
Well, I'm going to go out on a limb and disagree with the panel here. I think that it's entirely an ideal and species appropriate diet if you're a dolphin. I've never seen a fat dolphin. If you're a human, I would go by one of our basic rules, which is if your body says, you know, I right fancy some sardines today, eat some bloody sardines. The same with liver, the same with lamb, you know, whatever. If your body, if the idea of that sounds good, then you probably need the omega-3s or whatever. You know, other than that, if you're going, oh, not fucking sardines again, then, you know, like the guys have said, it's not going to be sustainable. So eat a steak and, you know, just crack on.
What we'll see, guys, is like all these other things, we all end up doing a mixed carnivore animal foods diet. And that'll be holding true for everyone. And Stephen brought up the good point there about, you know, maybe it helps you shift an extra pound. Yeah, great. You know, there is actually a measurement. There is a way to accurately work out how much body fat you can lose each day. I'll say for myself, as my current body weight, I worked out how much that was. I did the experiment. It's roughly 2/3 of a pound per day of fat, exclusively fat. So if someone comes to me and said, oh, I've been dropping a pound a day for the last week, I say, you've dropped a load of sugar from your muscle glycogen, you dropped some water, some inflammation, maybe you've had a few rest days from the gym, you're less pumped up, whatever it is, your hydration's a bit lower. So many things, guys. But we all have these little tricks. Everyone on this panel has their own little tricks that we can pull, levers that we can pull. It's just knowing which one to pull at the right time. So a lot of people get that wrong, but we aim to do our best. So hopefully we'll provide you guys some good answers tonight. And thank you for Phil's young one for popping on. Nice to see you. And we're glad you're here as well to help and assist with our question and answering. Anyway, guys, we'll be back next week with a undisclosed topic at this time. We're going to probably decide that behind the scenes. Then we'll see you all there. And thank you very much for joining again. And enjoy the rest of your evening. And all of our links will be on our channels. And I'll just put on the screen right now quickly so you can see where to find us. Our channels, websites, Substacks, everything like that. So it's all on the screen now if you want to get hold of us. Anyway, cheers, guys.